Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is Steve Harney, and as I promised, we're going to start right at the top of the hour. My clock was a little off. It was like really 22 seconds, not 38 seconds, so I apologize for that. Amy, you there?
Oh, I'm here, Steve.
Well, why don't you get us started, and then we'll go from there.
Well, let me just start by saying how thrilled I am that you agreed to do this, and give you a hearty thank you for that. All of our REMG family here, and we've invited along some people from some other fantastic groups, Cyberstars and Mr. Mike, Pat Hyden's Real Estate Rockstars. We've got people coming from several different groups because they know how important what you share is, Steve. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to Mike Parker for introducing us. It's been almost 2 years ago now since I first had the pleasure of hearing you speak and meeting you. And a lot of people may not know you, Steve, so I asked if I could just share a little bit from your bio because I know you won't toot your own horn. People may not be aware that you developed and owned your own 500-agent real estate firm, and you've been in this industry for over a quarter century. So you are well positioned to be a voice of authority for folks on what's going on in the real estate industry and communicating that back out to their market. Steve's been quoted, you guys, in everything from U.S. News and World Report to being interviewed on Fox to being in the Chicago Tribune and the L.A. Times. He's all over the place. So, Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this for our group, and I'll just turn it over to you and let you do your thing.
Thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate that a lot, and it's truly an honor to be able to share, our story, our message with the people on this webinar. We understand that you gave us an hour of your time today, and the only thing I can commit to you is we work really, really hard to put together a presentation that's going to give you a return on that investment. And I realize, without Amy even bringing it up, that the top of the top are the people that are on this webinar. You're the top agents in the community, and that means a lot to me being in the business for over a quarter century, even though it makes me feel very old. Because not only are you the top, producers in regard to commissions and all that, we all know that what that means is you help more families than anybody else. And that's really what I like to concentrate on in everything we do, is how can we help as many families as we possibly can. Because we work in a great industry that allows us that if we just help people a lot and they refer people to us and then we help their friends and their family a lot, and the money kind of takes care of itself. And that's pretty exciting. And I know that the people I'm talking to this afternoon on the East Coast, this morning on the West Coast, are at the top of the grade. And again, Amy, it's an honor that you allowed me to share my message with this team. All right,
Our pleasure to have you.
Let's get started. Today we're going to cover a couple of things. Number one, the 3 trends that will impact the real estate market through the rest of 2014. Number 2, the importance of building a large inventory of saleable listings. Number 3, the effect of homeownership on building family wealth. And number 4, the moral imperative to educate buyers of the financial consequences they will experience by not buying early in 2014. By early, I mean right now. They shouldn't wait till the end of the year. They shouldn't wait till the summer. They should really get in right now, and we'll cover that. But let's get started with number 1, the 3 trends that will impact the real estate market throughout 2014. First trend. I believe what Trulia said. 2014 will be the year of the repeat home buyer. Now, let's talk about the fact that I'm quoting Trulia. And I know that there are some people on this call that see Trulia as like a godsend, and you do, Zillow, Trulia, each one of those drives business to you and you really enjoy it. And I'm sure there's 1 or 2 people, at least on this phone call, that think that Zillow and Trulia are the devil incarnate, because that's kind of how the business splits up. This is the way I look at them. If they're saying something I want to repeat, I repeat it. If they're saying something I don't want to repeat, I don't repeat it. I happen to agree with Trulia on this. As the equity in homes starts to build, or continues to build, as prices start to rise, people that were shackled to their homes for the last 7 years couldn't sell because of negative equity, couldn't sell because they were afraid of losing their job, couldn't sell because they were afraid the economy wasn't coming back. Well, guess what? Now they do have more and more equity. They're not anywhere near as worried about their job, and the economy is coming back. So that's freeing these people up. And there's a pent-up demand of that move-up buyer, that repeat buyer. That buyer has to put their house on the market and move forward. As a matter of fact, LendingTree did a study just recently that showed that 63% of those they surveyed have a positive outlook on the economy this year. 63%. Good numbers compared to the last couple of years. 69% have a positive outlook on housing this year. And probably the thing that really hits me the most is 71% of those surveyed said they are considering selling their home in 2014. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we know not that 71% of all homeowners are going to sell the house this year. I understand that. Matter of fact, we couldn't handle that type of inventory. The important thing there is almost, or more than I should say, 7 out of 10 homeowners that are at least thinking about it. Some of them are ready, some of them are not ready. But we should be talking to as many of them as we possibly can. Because I do think that there are a bunch of sellers out there right now that are ready and able, but they're a little nervous, so they're not willing at this point in time. And some of that nervousness, I think, is going to be coming away as the economy gets better, as prices continue to strengthen. I think that there's going to be more and more of that move-up buyer moving into the market and buying the house of their dreams. Now, at KCM, Keeping Current Matters, the company that I founded and run, we don't like just talking about what we think is going to take place. We like, trying to gather as much information as we possibly can. Here's Paul Dingle from Capital Economics. We're anticipating a meaningful increase in supply of homes for sale. Their survey evidence suggests that rising prices are motivating more owners to list their homes. Now, we know that if we look at the non-numbers, the listing numbers are starting to increase. If we take a look at anyone who rates that or judges that, listing inventory is starting to eke upward. That's good news. We have to just speed that process up. In many of our markets, maybe not in Phoenix right now that has a good supply of inventory versus last year where they had no supply of inventory, or Vegas, but in many of our markets we're lacking good sellable inventory. And the group that are on this webinar, you're the best of the best. Now that makes you feel good, it gives you some recognition, it gives you some pride, but I will argue that it also gives you a responsibility. You have to not let somebody who's not strong as an agent. The strong agents have to be in front of as many homeowners as possible right now, really helping them, counseling them as to whether or not now's the time for them to make that move to their dreams. And we have to get in front of as many of them as possible. Because as John Burns, real estate consultant, just recently said, the oldest baby boomer turned 68 this year, and the youngest turns 50. They are buying homes in droves as their employment situation, home values, and stock portfolios have almost fully recovered from the Great Recession. We are seeing strong sales in this same demographic throughout the country. So this momentum is already starting to build. What we have to make sure is we get way out in front of it. Now, if you have any questions or anything like that anywhere through the whole process, there's a little place there you can text in your questions on the left-hand side of your screen. Don't be afraid to do that. We're going to wait till the end because we might wind up answering your question in another part of the webinar, but don't be afraid to put that in there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say some strong statements like this one right now. That age group, the baby boomers, they're putting their houses on the market and starting to move in certain parts of the country, even though Mr. Burns talks about throughout the country. It's really happening in a big way. We have to make sure that those people are properly represented. What does that mean? The best agents in the market are the ones helping them with the move. And we've already identified the best agents in your market. It's you. So you have a responsibility to make sure that they have it. And we're not just talking about them moving, selling their house and moving. It might be that they're selling their house, moving into a condo locally so they can be near their family, and buying that second home. Because just a survey released last week, 25% of baby boomers said they'd likely buy a second home, such as a vacation or beach house, to use during retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, the belief in home ownership has not changed. The belief in home ownership as an investment has not changed. It's still very strong. Survey after survey, surveys done by the Joint Center of Housing Studies at Harvard University, say there's a stronger belief in home ownership right now than before that boom and bust. So let's not think that people are not thinking about buying a house. As a matter of fact, 1 out of 4 baby boomers are thinking about buying that next house, and again, they're already in the market. NAR just reported 2 weeks ago that vacation home sales are up almost 30%. So that baby boomer, that move-up seller, that's going to be a big piece of your business in 2014. I think that we have to drive that business instead of wait for that business. We have to get in front of those people and figure out what in our marketing we can do to make sure that when they do make the decision that they're going to move, they get the right agent. And again, in the vast majority of the markets that are being represented on this webinar, that agent who they should be talking to is you. Second thing, second trend, I think this is the year millennials come out. Now, I know there's a lot of blogs saying, well, millennials don't believe in home ownership and, they're not buying houses and they can't afford to buy a house. Let's take a look at the facts. Let's not take a look at what bloggers think, or if they want to blog about their son that still lives at home as a 28-year-old college graduate. I understand their anecdotal stories of that. I have one of them. My 28-year-old son, college graduate, lives with me. But that's not every one of his friends. So if we take a look at the bigger data, there's some surprises. Number one, NAR did a study, and they actually went percentage of buyers by generation. The study just came out, but it covered from June 2012 to June 2013. Millennials bought more houses than any other generation. More houses, not less houses. They weren't the ones that were pulling in the rear. They were not the anchor on the boat sailing forward. They actually purchased more houses, just by a little bit, than any one of the other generations. And surveys by the Pulte Group, again, just recently out, and we like to do a lot of that at KCM. We have a research team that goes through all the studies that are released, all the white papers that are released, and pull out the best information we can to get it into our agents' hands. Millennials, the reason they're buying houses, they associate owning a home with three things primarily: happiness, independence, and achievement. So and they are in fact buying houses, and they feel good about buying houses. It means something to them. It means something to them personally. Now, I know there are going to be some people out there who say, well, Steve, these college graduates, they have so much student debt, and they can't afford it, and they can't get a job. Well, again, let's take a look at the record. The record is that of all the college graduates in this country, 29% have no student debt. The average student debt of the other 71% is somewhere around, according to the product on student debt, somewhere around $28,000, $29,000. The payment they're making on that is like a car payment. Over the last 20 years in your career, did you ever sell anyone a house that had a car payment? Yeah, well, that's what they have. I think that the bloggers would like us to believe, because they talk in trillions of dollars of student debt, that every single person who graduates has hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, student debt on them. That's not true. It's less than $30,000 in student debt. I'm not saying that's a small number. I'm just saying it's not a number that's going to prevent them from buying a home in many, many cases. As a matter of fact, as far as the unemployment thing, let's take a look at the real numbers. If we take a look at millennial ages 25 to 32 with a bachelor's degree, and we compare their unemployment rate versus the unemployment rate of the rest of the country, it's way less. So it's not that college graduates can't find a job. They find a job better than the other people in the United States find a job. The average American finds a job by a lot. And then you'll have those people, oh yeah, they have a job, but they all work at McDonald's frying the fries. Well, let's take a look at the real numbers. The real numbers are that the median annual full-time wage of a millennial with a bachelor's degree is almost $5,000 higher than the average American worker. They do have a job, and they're not all working at McDonald's. They are buying houses greater than any other percentage, any other generation by percentage. And let's take a look at what's moving forward on that. This is a study put out this past January, the Emerging Trends in Real Estate for 2014 by the Urban Land Institute. And they took a look at the households in the United States. The study explained that there are 121 million current households in the United States, separate households where there's a head of household and the people who live with them. They project that over the next 3 years, there's going to be a 3.7% increase in the number of households, meaning people moving out of a dorm into their own domicile, people moving out of their parents' house into their own home of some sort, whether it be a rental or whether it be a sale. That means that according to them, over the next 3 years, we're going to get almost 4.5 million additional households. That's about 1.5 million a year. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to buy houses. But what that does mean is they're going to either buy a house or rent a house. And I think it's up to us to make sure that they make the right decision. For some people, it might be to rent. But for a very large percentage of those people forming their own household, buying might be the answer. And there's more and more evidence coming out now that they understand that. Recent study just put out by Zillow weeks ago. The question they asked, are there 4.2 million first-time buyers about to buy? What their study showed, 19 of the 20 large metro areas surveyed, more than 5% of all the residents indicated they wanted to buy a home in the next year. 5% of all of the people, all the residents. Among current renters, home ownership aspirations were particularly strong, with about 10% of all renters nationwide saying they would like to buy within the next 12 months. Let's say that again. Over the next 12 months, 10% of all the renters in this country want to buy a home. Now, the interesting thing is the vast majority of them said that they were confident or somewhat confident they could afford home ownership now. That number was way low over the last couple of years. But they think they can get a mortgage now. And if all renters that indicated they wanted to buy actually did purchase a home in the next year, it would represent more than 4.2 million first-time home sales. More than double the roughly 2.1 million first-time home buyers in 2013. Now, we know that not all of them are going to buy a house. We're not suggesting that there are going to be 4.2 million first-time home buyers in the market this year. What we're suggesting is the number of first-time home buyers to the market is going to dramatically increase. Many of them are going to be millennials. Now, not every millennial is a first-time home buyer, and not every first-time home buyer is a millennial. So let's not get caught up in that. But in the first-time home buyers, many of them will be, about 71% will be millennials. And if that's the case, that's about to increase dramatically. But just taking a little aside to that, understand, ladies and gentlemen, that there's over 40%, well, it depends on which study you look at. It's either 43% or 38%, two different studies came out, of millennials own their home now. And they're thinking about moving. We say, well, Steve, how could that be? I didn't think. Let's think about 2010. First-time tax credit. We almost forgot about that. But there were a whole bunch of young people, 24, 26 years old, that decided that they didn't want to pass up that tax credit. My other son, my oldest son, was one of them. They jumped in, took advantage of that tax credit, took advantage of prices, took advantage of interest rate. And they purchased their first home. But just like my son, they bought what they could afford at the time. Now, let's fast forward 4 years. That 25-year-old is 29. That 26-year-old is 30. Still a millennial. But they settled for the house they got into because they wanted to get into the game. And now, just like my son, they're looking. They're saying, hey, wait a second. I got a great deal then. I can still get a great interest rate. Prices are still in a really good place. I have a little equity, because if they bought in 2010, their prices flatlined for about a year and a half, and then they started seeing their prices grow. This might be the time. Understand when you're dealing with millennials, it's not just a buyer, but the vast majority of them. One thing that's going to come into play, and we have to understand that, and that's fear. Even the move-up buyer. They're feeling a lot better about the economy. They're feeling a lot better about the fact that the housing market is gaining strength. But they're still a little afraid. We have to replace that fear with knowledge. We have to help them overcome that fear with insights as what's going to take place if they wait. I like what Freddie Mac came out with in their new blog just a couple of weeks ago. One thing seems certain, this is from Freddie Mac itself, we are not likely to see average 30-year fixed rates return to the historic lows experienced in 2012. People have to understand. Some people are waiting. Well, my friend got an interest rate at 3.75%. I have to pay 4.5. I'm going to wait till they get back to 3.75. Well, there's a much greater chance they're going to go to historic norms before they go to historic lows. And we have to define that for them. We have to let them know exactly what that means. Is there a chance they're going to go back to 3.75? Or as the economy gets better and the government tapers more and more of the stimulus they gave to the housing market, will we return to more normal interest rates, historically normal interest rates? I broke them down by decade for you. And what I did there is I took a look at a $200,000 mortgage and explained what that mortgage payment would be. Now again, they might be waiting for 3.5% interest rates. But I think there's a much better chance that before that will ever happen again, we'll be back up at about 6.5% in interest rates. Right? And that's what we need to explain to them. Waiting right now doesn't make sense. Now, of course, what they're going to think, because if we're pushing that pretty hard, they're going to be thinking, well, you're just doing that to try to get me to buy a house. You're just trying to get me to get my listing and me to move up to a bigger home because, that you're going to get 2 commissions. Well, no, this is what the rates are. And let's take a look at where rates have been for the last year and 4 months and where they're projected to go. Again, I don't like talking about what I think. I don't think you should be talking about what you think. I think we should be basing what we're saying to them on evidence. What do the experts think? What are the people that are supposed to know? What are they telling us? Well, their interest rates, they were at below 3.5% for the early part of last year. Then as the government started even talking about tapering, they went up, and now they're up in that 4.5%. Let's take a look at what Freddie Mac's projections are going forward for the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage over the next 18 months. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the projections from Freddie Mac's website. I'm not making that up that interest rates are going to go up. According to them, they're going to go up in the next 18 months by over a full percentage point. And where are they headed to? Probably that 6.5% number again. A normal historical number. So why should they, go now? And we'll get into that a little bit more later. But we can't allow the people who are on this webinar, you understand this business. You live it 24/7, and many of you lived it 24/7 for decades. You have what we like to call the curse of knowledge. You understand it so well, you think you can simply explain it, and they're going to catch it real quick. You think that if you spend 5 minutes with a person, they're going to know as much about it as you've learned over the last 15 years. Well, that's not true for me, and it's not true for you. We have to take the time to explain everything to them and explain what the ramifications are. We know if interest rates are going up and prices are going up, that their monthly mortgage payment is going up. They might not make all those connections the same way we do. Again, we have that curse of knowledge. We know what impact that's going to have. We need to show them. If they bought a house with a $250,000 mortgage right now, they pay about 4.41%. That's their principal and interest payment. If they wait until the end of 2015, if they wait until the end of next year, well, the experts at the Home Price Expectation Survey say prices are going to go up about 4% over the next year in the national. And we just showed that Freddie Mac said interest rates by the fourth quarter of next year are going to be 5.7%. They're buying the same house, just paying over $300 more a month for it. That's big, ladies and gentlemen. That's really big. We have to make sure we explain that to them. So the 3 things that we have to look, the 2 things that we've come so far that we have to look at in a big way, that move-up buyer, we have to explain to them waiting is going to cost them money. They could move up to the house of their dreams right now. They could go ahead and move into that condo and buy that vacation home, which will wind up to be a vacation home right now, much less expensively than they're going to do it if they wait a year or 2 years from now. We have to counsel them through that. We have to coach them through that. We have to be that a trusted advisor with the heart of a teacher going and explaining it to them. The 3rd thing I think is going to change mightily in our business, and I would assume that many of you already know this, is how we go ahead and brand ourselves and market ourselves. One of the great thinkers as far as marketing is concerned, in my opinion, is Mark Davison, one of the founders of 1000 Watt Consulting, good friend up in Portland. He says frivolous content will sink in 2014 as the gems of true insight continue to rise. I believe that so strongly, ladies and gentlemen. And the thing that kills me is when I see agents doing this. Please stop with the cherry pie recipes. I know they have their place. When I was an agent, I sent them out. When I owned my company, I had my agent send them out. I'm not saying there's still not a place for them. But that shouldn't be the only marketing you're doing anymore. It's not just about making a soft, nice little touch on the shoulder contact. You have to let them know that you know what you're talking about in real estate. You're not applying for top chef. You're applying for top realtor, top real estate professional. So though there's a place for this type of marketing, that can't be what's driving most of your marketing. And more in every industry, they're realizing that. That frivolous type of, I just wanted to tap you on the shoulder and let you know I'm still here type of marketing, there's a place. But as Nabu Hada said from the NAS Director, who's NAS Director of Digital Engagement, 2014 will be the year that real estate marketing shifts to effectively and consistently answering the one question every real estate pro gets asked: how's the market? We need to do that, and we need to do that in a big way. As a matter of fact, I've dedicated to Keeping Current Matters a really good piece of the last part of my career to doing just that. Helping agents with get the best data possible into their marketing, into their presentations, whether it be a listing, whether it be a buyer presentation, whether it be a pre-listing package, whether it be a negotiation of offer, whether it be a price breaks presentation. And also through all their marketing. We put together this, Selling Your House. Every quarter we come out with this. And I'm giving this as an example of some of the things you should use. It's a 12-page booklet that explains to them why now's the time to sell their house. If they're concerned selling the house, do it now. We give them the 5 reasons why they shouldn't for sale by owner, where a price is headed over the next 5 years. This is the type of information people want. We didn't put a cherry pie recipe at the end of it. We put all great real estate information together with it. We update it every 90 days. We do one for the sellers and one for the buyers. And we give that to the 7,000 agents that are part of our service. Why? Because they love it. Whether it's for the buyer and they put it in an open house, whether they use it as a pre-listing package, whether they use it as a lead gen for buyers and sellers. That's there. Now, I know there's going to be some people that are going to start asking, well, Steve, how do we get that type of material? I know Amy. I know who I'm talking to on this webinar. It's the best of the best. There's no question about that. Tell you what, go into keepingcurrentmatters.com/trial. Get a free trial for 14 days. Empty every piece of information that's on there. There are thousands of slides, e-guides, materials directly to use with your buyers and sellers. Just go ahead to that website right now and you can download everything. All right? This way nobody's worried about, well, how do I get the slides? How do I get this? You get them for free. Go ahead, spend 14 days, enjoy yourself. Let's go on with the webinar. Second thing I want to call on, the importance of building a large sellable inventory. Now, some people will look at the existing sales report and they'll say, wait a second, Steve, existing home sales are dropping like a rock. And they wouldn't be necessarily wrong in saying that. Existing home sales over the last few months have actually declined from a year-over-year basis. There's no question about that. But we have to understand what that really means. And again, I touched on that before. We believe what Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, said. When getting help with money, whether it's insurance, real estate, or investments, you should always look for someone with the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesman. I'm not embarrassed about having a real estate sales license. I'm not embarrassed about being a salesperson. But at this time in history, in our industry, we have to realize there are a lot of people still a little bit nervous. They can remember back just a couple of years ago when there was a lot of heartache in our industry. They don't want a salesperson coming in and telling them, you got to buy now, you got to sell now. They want someone coming in, and I know that I'm talking to those people on this webinar. A lot of webinars, I have a whole mix of you. Here I have the best of the best. I know you've already taken this in. You are the counselors. But you have to be able to explain the sales report. Are sales down right now? Yeah. Sales of houses less than $100,000, and the sales of houses from $100,000 to $250,000 are down a little bit. But once you get over $250,000, sales are dramatically increasing, and they're increasing more the higher price you get. That's not the sign of a weak market. That's a sign of a market getting stronger, because a lot of those houses from $0 to $100,000 were distressed properties. As a matter of fact, we break it down for our people. Here's the percentage change in sales from a year ago by category. Are sales down? Yes. So short sales are down dramatically. REO sales are down pretty substantially. But existing home sales of non-distressed properties are actually up, and new construction's up almost by 25%. So when you're there talking to someone, they say, well, you know, houses really aren't selling right now. I'm not sure if now's the time for me to get my house on the market. Oh, no, it's definitely time. And I'm not the only one saying that, you know, let's not worry about the existing home sales report. What it's really showing is that the industry is getting stronger, that existing home sales, new construction is way up, and the sales, we're finally working our way through all that shadow inventory and bringing that down to almost nothing. That's all good news, especially for someone, if you're building a listing inventory, you're talking to a seller right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the buyers and sellers are out there. Talk about the move-up buyer. Talk about the millennials coming to the market. They want to beat all that rest of that regular, non-distressed property category that's coming to the market as listings. They don't want to wait until all the people put their houses on the market over the next couple of months. There are buyers out there right now that they can go ahead and sell their home to, and they should get the house on the market right now. And again, I'm not the only one saying that. Elliot F. Eisenberg, PhD in Grass and Labs, he's an economist. While many fret about that existing home sales have recently been slumping, the angst is misplaced. Since early last year, sales have declined 7%, but distressed sales, as a percentage of all sales, have fallen 25% of sales to just 15%. Thus, the total volume of non-distressed sales is higher than it was a year ago. Relax. Again, I like to use examples of that. But ladies and gentlemen, this is what we know. This is what we have the information to. We have to get that out to people, because there's a lot of confusion out there. When people are thinking about buying or selling their house, what are they doing? Well, they're watching CNBC. They're reading the Wall Street Journal. They're listening to Bloomberg Radio. And what are they hearing? All sorts of craziness. They could hear on the same news broadcast that prices are going up at the same time prices are stabilizing. That they're jumping up and they're stabilizing. Well, yeah, year over year, they're still way up, over double digits in this. Month over month, they're very much stabilizing. But they don't understand the differences between those two things unless we explain it to them. We have to go deeper with the explanation, just the headlines. We have to make sure that we are their expert. We have to make sure, and don't worry about that slide, that we are their expert. That's the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen. We're the person to whom people will turn to for advice on difficult to complex real estate decisions. That's what makes us valuable. So when we're talking about pricing, I like to break down the FHFA pricing across the country. I like this because it tells us regionally. Are prices up? Yeah, but they're up differently in different parts of the country based on the supply and demands. I live in New York. Well, New York's not doing as well as California is doing. I want to explain that to someone. Because now when they're hearing the national news, when, again, they're listening to, you know, Bloomberg Radio, reading the Wall Street Journal, or watching CNBC, they're hearing national numbers. If we go in there with a different set of data than what they just heard on CNBC or just read in the Wall Street Journal, we're putting that seller in a very awkward position. Because what we're telling that seller is, you should believe me more than you should believe the Wall Street Journal. No, we have to take what the Wall Street Journal said, what CNBC said, what Bloomberg News said, and then explain that that's a national number. Let me explain it to you, that it breaks down differently regionally. Then we have to break it down to a state level. And then you can go to your MLS and bring it down to the regional level, to the zip code, all the way down to the neighborhood, all the way down to which side of the street in the neighborhood your house is on. But we first have to start at the national level and work our way down. Because if we're someplace like, I don't know, let's take a look at Oklahoma, and they just heard on TV the prices are up 10%, and we go in saying that they're only up 2%, they're assuming we're just trying to keep the price low so we can get to sell the house quicker. We have to explain that. And the other thing I love to use these maps for is I have somebody that I'm listing in New York, and they're thinking about relocating to Florida or California. Well, they're sitting on an asset that's very slowly appreciating, waiting to buy an asset that's very rapidly appreciating. That makes no sense at all. They should sell as quickly as they can so that they can buy the other house as quickly as they can. And that's not even taking into considering interest rates. Prices are much stronger. And here's the weird thing. The same news report that will say that, well, sales are dropping, what's happening with housing, will also, the same newspaper, 3 pages in, will say we might be, approaching a new bubble. Prices are way up. Wait a second. How could sales be down and we're approaching a new bubble? But they say both of those things. And we need to have the answers to both of those things. Are prices up? Yeah, in a big way. But CoreLogic just explained in their latest report, home prices nationwide remain 16.9% below their peak, which was set nationally in April 2006. So are prices going up? Yeah, they're going up. Are we approaching a new bubble? We're not even approaching the bubble from, 8 years ago yet. So I think that we should have everyone calm down. There's a real strong growth. Sales are going down because we're getting rid of the distressed properties. That's good news. As long as we replace those distressed properties with non-distressed listings. Prices are going up. There's a strong in the market. That's good news. They're not going up too far. We're not giving money to anyone who wants to get a loan anymore. There's not a lot of speculative buying. Some investors are in there in some marketplaces, but a lot of speculation went away. That's what caused the bubble, not a strong real estate market, and that's what we're in right now, just a real strong real estate market. But I knew coming into this webinar, I'm talking to the best of the best. I'm talking to the real top grade. I knew I can go to this number. Number 3, the effect of homeownership on building wealth. See, the people on this call, this is what I think of you. You're not in it just for the money. Yeah, I know money's important. We have to keep a roof over our family's head. We have to keep food on our family's tables. But there's nobody on this webinar that's in it just for the money. There's a mission to what you do. You help people. You help families. That's what made you who you are. It enabled you to belong to those great groups that Amy mentioned at the beginning of the telecast or the webcast. You understand that what you do is a lot more than just buy, list and sell houses. You understand you're affecting people's pocketbooks in a big way. But sometimes they don't understand that. So I'm going to reach out to everyone here today and make sure that we let them know. Homeowners' net worth in this country, according to the Federal Reserve, and by the way, the Harvard University did a very similar study, and their number was 29.7 times greater than renters. This is America, ladies and gentlemen. Homeownership is still an American dream. The vast majority of the people that are homeowners don't buy a house for the money. They buy it, the top 4 reasons always come out the same. They want a good place to raise their kids. They want to make sure their family's safe. They want a little extra elbow room. And they don't want a landlord telling them what to do with that extra elbow room. If they have a newborn, they want to paint that room all sorts of different colors. Really work that creativity in that, newborn's mind right from the beginning. They don't want a landlord telling them you have to keep all the walls beige because that's what the lease says. They want that independence. And when we take a look at those numbers and break it down to real dollars, a homeowner's net worth, the average net worth in this country is $174,500. The average net worth of a renter is a little over $5,000. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot do anything about the millions, maybe trillions of dollars of equity that was lost from 2006 to 2011. That water's already under that bridge. That's over. But we have a major impact on the trillions of dollars of equity that are going to be earned over the next 7 years. And we have to get up on the mountaintops and let people know. And that's where I'm going to number 4. I think we all have a legal and ethical imperative, a moral legal responsibility, a legal and ethical responsibility based on our code of ethics to do the right thing. But I also think we have a moral imperative to educate buyers of the financial consequences they will experience if they're not buying today instead of waiting 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months from today. First off, Trulia came out with buying is cheaper than renting in all of the 100 largest metros by an average of 38%. So even on the bills right now, it's cheaper. If they go ahead and buy right now, they're buying cheaper and they're locking in their housing expense for the next 30 years. They're locking it into a number. Sure, and, property taxes might go up, but for the most part, their number is locked in. Let's take a look at the normal rent, median asking rent, for the last 25 years. That didn't stay the same. They didn't lock that number in. That number just kept on increasing. We have to lag. Remember we talked about that there were, 4.2 million people that might be making a decision whether they're going to sign another lease or buy a house this year? Let's make sure that they at least are making an informed decision, an educated decision. Maybe some of them should sign another lease. But there's a certain percentage of them that should jump into home ownership and ride the equity we're going to see over the next 20, 30 years. We have a responsibility, a moral obligation to make them understand that. With the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesman. But we have to drive that. And we've already talked in a big way about the impact of increasing interest rates. If we take just a look at this slide again, and we take that $313.70 number, and we multiply that number by 12, we're north of $3,600 a year they're paying extra by waiting till the end of next year instead of buying now. They lost $20,000 in equity because the price of the house went up. They're losing $3,600 a month. Take that $3,600 and multiply it over a 30-year mortgage. That's $100,000 in net equity we're talking about. $100,000 of family net worth they lose. Now I'm going to get up on a little bit of a soapbox here, because I know I have the evangelists on this webinar. When we do an open webinar to just whoever realtors come in, I can't talk like this. Many of them won't understand. But the people on this webinar, you believe this. See, again, like I mentioned before, we don't just list and sell houses. We impact families' lives. What are the two biggest challenges that we had over the last 10 years? There weren't enough jobs and too much student debt. Well, let's take a little closer look at that. See, folks, 200 years before that, when a kid got accepted into a better college than they originally thought he was going to, he would go to his parents. And the parents made a decision. Were they going to invest in their children's education? Many parents said yes. Where'd they get the money? They tapped into the equity of the home. I did for both my boys. I'm sure there are people on this call that did the same thing. I'm sure there are people on this call that their parents to help them. Not enough jobs. Well, most jobs are started by new businesses, small businesses. But where did all those entrepreneurs, those innovators, where did so many of them get their seed capital, their startup capital to work out of their garage? Tapped into the equity of the home. Story after story in this country. Decade after decade that happened. Well, guess what happened over the last few years? There was no equity to tap into. A lot of those parents couldn't help their kids. A lot of those businesses couldn't get started. But we can change that right now. People buying houses, whether they're buying a second home, whether they're moving into a condo and buying their vacation or retirement home, whether it's a new person buying a home, whether it's a millennial who bought in 2010 buying a bigger home now, they're going to be riding equity. They're going to be building family worth. The net worth of that family. They will be able to start a company. They will be able to help their children with their educational needs. But we have to get out there and we have to make sure that they understand that now's the time. Now's the time to make that move. Not because we want to make a commission, because it's the right thing for their families. We can't sell them on that point. We have to teach them about that. Well, I made you a promise at the beginning that I was going to try to give you the biggest return on your investment of your hour today as I possibly could. I told you we're going to cover three things, the three trends. The move-up buyer, the millennial buyer, and you have to change your marketing in a big way. We talked about the importance of building a large inventory. Even though sales are going down, sales of non-distressed properties are going up, we have to fill that inventory. The effect of home ownership on building family wealth, 30 times. The net worth of a homeowner is 30 times better than that. The moral imperative to educate buyers of the financial consequences. I got a little bit on my soapbox at the end there to do that. Again, I felt comfortable with this audience saying that. So I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. Again, for those that maybe came a little bit late to it, I'm Steve Harney. I founded Keeping Current Matters as a service we do for agents. If you want to get a little feel for it, don't spend any money. Just go in there. You get the whole website. Go to the free trial. Rip it apart for 14 days. Pull everything you want off there. Use whatever you want to use. Go from there. And right now, Amy, what I would like to do is open it up to questions, if there's any questions that we have on that. Amy, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Absolutely.
I'd like to open it up to any questions that we have. And we're getting a whole bunch of this is great, this is great, this is great. That's really cool. I really appreciate all the compliments. But really, we want to get right to the question. And I really do appreciate the compliments, especially coming from this group. All right, I was nervous doing this webinar. All right, because I knew.
I tell you what, Steve, you don't need to be nervous. You bring so much value to the table. I got so much out of today's webinar, and as you well know, this is what I'm doing on a daily basis. So to continue to get value at the level that you're giving, with the engagement level I have and what's going on, is fantastic. And thank you so much for the offer for people to get into this for free for 14 days. I just share, I have several clients who are using the graphical pieces that you guys do every month. They're posting on multiple channels with the materials you're giving them. So, they're attaching it into e-newsletters. They're putting it out on their Facebook page. The utility of what you're creating is phenomenal.
Well, forget about whether you get that information from us, and I really appreciate that, Amy, in a very, very big way. Because I think we do a phenomenal job. My staff does a phenomenal job of not only getting research into great information, making it simple and effectively, making it simple for the agent to simply and effectively explain it to a consumer. And I think we do graphically, we do beautiful work. My graphic team does really some sensational stuff. And they think about, Facebook posts, they think about putting it in even an 8x10 mailing piece. We give you that type of information, that quality, so you can do all those things. But whether you get it from us or get it from someone else, and to be frank with you, I don't know who else that is, but no matter who you get it from, just make sure that we're really pumping right now the opportunity that exists in the market. Because I know we understand that. But my fear is that there are so many buyers and sellers out there still bitten by that dog of 2008 to 2010 that they're a little afraid to go pet the next dog. And that next house they're going to buy, or that first house they're going to buy, is really the answer for them financially over the next 30 years. They're just a little nervous, and we have to take that nervousness away from them. So I really appreciate everything you said with that in a big way. One of the questions is, do we get a replay of this webinar? We didn't really set it up for a replay. What I can tell you is this. If you go to get the free trial, if you looked at this month's edition, because we do a monthly edition, where we do an online on-demand webinar pretty much for our members, the 7,000 members. If you looked at this month's edition and next month's edition, you get everything that you need, all right, from what you just did here, and plus further insights, because each one of those are an hour. You could just go, if you were looking for a particular couple of slides that you really liked that you just saw, you can go right to a button, you click on it, it says JPEGs, you can pull whatever slides you want out. But if you go there, you get involved in a free trial, rip it apart. It's very difficult for me to explain what KCM is. And for years it bothered me that I had such difficulty with it. And then I heard a great quote about Audrey Hepburn. And what the quote was, they were talking about beauty, and they were talking about her. And the quote was, well, beauty, it's real hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. All right? The same thing with KCM. It's real hard to explain, but you know it once you experience it. So what we wanted to do for everybody on this webinar is give you the opportunity to go in there and experience it. See what it is. See if it makes sense for your marketing. See if it makes sense for your presentation manuals. See if it makes sense just maybe learning a little bit more about what's taking place. You know, we've turned a lot of minds on the whole millennial situation because there are so many people out there saying that they have no interest in buying a house and they're not buying houses, when both of those things are just not true. All right, they do have actually the millennial generation, according to Harvard, has a stronger belief in home ownership than previous generations. That's a survey that just came out, I think, last December, 4 months ago. All right.
My high school senior's already talking about his first house, and he's still in mine. So.
Yeah, the good news is he's living in a home where you understand the value of that. You know, there's a lot of people out there living in homes where maybe their parents got bit a little bit. We can't let them get bit because their parents got bit. You know,
right.
If again, we have nothing. There's nothing we can do about the trillions of dollars lost in equity over the last 7 years. But we have absolute control of making sure none of that equity, those trillions of dollars equity that could be built over the next 7 years, that's going to be lost. We can control people as best we can in our marketplaces, those people taking advantage of a real good market. I keep on getting thank yous. It's a list of them. And I want to say I appreciate it very, very much. But are there any questions about anything we've covered here? Because if you have one of those, I'd like to answer it. All right, one question that came in was, what does it cost after the free trial? It's $19.95 a month after the free trial. But don't worry about the $19.95 a month. Go in there, see its value. The same way when you're on a listing presentation, you don't want to talk about commission up front, you want to talk about value. If there's value there, then the commission either does or doesn't make sense. I want you to see the value. After that, you can make a determination whether $19.95 fits your budget. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I know who I'm talking to. This is the best of the best. You're not even the Marines. You're the Special Forces in the Marines. And I know you're approached constantly by all sorts of vendors, because they want the best of the best using their products. I wanted to give you a great webinar today that gave you great information, and I want to give you access to all that information without you worrying about spending a penny. That's what the goal was today. Now, if
well, you delivered on what you promised, Steve, for sure.
No, thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate that. All right, the next question. If you remember what you said about educating buyers, can you repeat it? I could not write fast enough. I guess we're going to go to the quote of Dave Ramsey. I think that's what you was talking about there. Dave Ramsey actually said, I don't want to steal his words, the financial star. When getting help with money, whether it's insurance, real estate, or investments, you should always look for someone with the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesman. Now, understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying to back off of your sales, the fact that you are a salesperson. You should be proud of that. If you didn't want to be a salesperson, you probably took the wrong class, you took the wrong test, and you have the wrong license. All right, because all of those things probably in your state say salesperson, real estate salesperson. So I want you to be proud of a salesperson. I want you to be a salesperson. I want you to know great selling skills. But when you're sitting with someone, they can't see that part of your personality. They can't see about, that they should go ahead and buy. And you want to push them to buy because you'd push your own kid to buy right now. They can't see that pushiness right now. You have to take the time to prepare your presentations, whether it's a listing or a buyer presentation, to educate them to what's taking place in the market, so they can feel comfortable that they made the decision based on the best information available, not that you made that decision for them. Let's see. We update it every single month. The question is, how often is update? We update, we give you an online on-demand webinar every single month, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour. We work pretty hard at putting some great information together and sharing that with you in a very, very big way. Then we update the those 12 and 13-page guides that we talk about, that you know, things to consider when buying a house and things to consider when selling a house. We update them every single quarter, and we download them there for you to use, and the agents absolutely love that. If you're on the 14-day trial, go up to the content button and go down to buyer and seller guides. If you just download those two things, it'll be well worth you taking the time to get involved with the free trial. They're phenomenal. We update them once a quarter. So the basic information, all the slides, all the pictures, all the graphics you get, we update once a month, and the e-guides we update once a quarter. I hate to do this, but I'm getting notification from the webinar company that my time is almost up. So I think what I'm going to have to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, is say goodbye. But before I do, I want to turn it back over to Amy to finish it up. Amy, again, from me, I really, really, truly appreciate you giving me the honor to share my message with, you know, the people that are most important to you. That's something special for me, so I appreciate it very much.
Well, we could just start a mutual admiration society at this point, I think. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate all of you that were able to join us on the webinar today. Just a reminder to you all that our next Mastery Workshop for the Real Estate Masters Guild is coming up October 8th through the 10th in Kansas City. We've got a great lineup of presenters for that, and we are capping the attendance at 125. So you need to get signed up and registered for that sooner than later. And you can go to the realestatemasters.guild.com website and find information there. And we're also on Eventbrite, so feel free to go there and search for Mastery Workshop as well. All right, looking forward to many, many years of continuing to communicate and learn from and enjoy you, Steve, and thanks to everybody on the call for being with us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everyone. See you next time. Bye now.